Hello everyone, this is Franchise Lore, and today we're going to be talking about Dragon Age. Today's video is going to be about the ages, and that's just the way that they keep time. More specifically, it's the Chantry's version of how they tell, basically what year it is, and the format in which it is. There's also the Elven and the Imperial calendar, but those aren't really too relevant. Really, in the series, it's mostly the Chantry's calendar that they follow. 99th of each year, the Divine looks for an event to determine the name of the new age. They look at different things that are happening in the world. Could be bad, could be good, and they derive the name from that event. And that kind of ushers in the new era. The format that it's in is a 3-digit format. It has the age as the starting number, and then colon, and then depending on the year, it has the year afterwards. So let's get right into it. The Ancient Age was the first one. This is when the rise and fall of the Elvenon occurred. The arrival of the first humans, creation of most of the dwarven thags, and the Deep Roads themselves. This was also the zenith of the Tevinter Imperium, and because of that, how much power that they had, they got in a little over themselves. They developed quite a hubris, and they defiled the Golden City, which then became the Black City. This, in turn, caused the first and longest of the Blight. The Ancient Age is before any of the Chantry's determined ages. After that, we have the Divine Age, which began with the death of Andraste. Cordelius Dragon I of Orlais organized the Chantry, and the second Blight occurred. This is also when the Circle of Magi established. This is when the Circle first began. And really it was established to allow mages to fight in the Blight under Templar supervision. They wanted to use all the resources they had at their disposal at that time to fight back against the Darkspawn. And then after the Divine Age, we have the Glory Age. And this age was named after Archdemon's defeat. And then when this age started out, there wasn't really any Darkspawn for people to rise up against, to coordinate with each other. So tensions between races started to begin. Orlais with the Elven Dales, and then the Orlesian Chantry called upon other Andastrian countries, and that began the Exalted March. It annexed the Dales and scattered elves all over the world. Basically, the elves were so spread out, and they weren't able to really form anything like they did before, like a community. And then after the Glory Age, Towers Age occurred, and what helped to name this age was the Grand Cathedral of Val Rayo. It was completed after 2 centuries of construction. During this age, the Third Blight occurred as well. Orlais and Tevinter actually became organized and fought together by the Grey Wardens. Luckily, they were able to help people see past their differences and work together to beat the Darkspawn. However, this peace does not last. The Imperial Chantry ended up cutting ties with Orlais over opposing views of how magic and mages are treated and their roles are in society. Now, after this age, the Black Age occurred. And this was called the Black Age because the chantry called for retribution against the Black Divine of Tevinter. So basically, when Tevinter and Orlais split up and they weren't working together anymore, the Tevinters believed that mages were crucial to society and magic should rule over man. And Orlais did not believe that. Orlais believed magic should rule for man. And yeah, so they made their whole, Tevinter made their whole like chantry. It's called the Imperial Chantry, and yeah, so they were different there. Now the chantry actually called the Orlais Chantry, Orlesian Chantry, called for 4 exalted marches to destroy the Imperial Chantry. That lasts for a long time. They ended up failing in their quest and only worsening relationships with the Imperium. And then this next age is the Exalted Age. And it was, as you can guess, named after all the 4 exalted marches that were formed and created to destroy the Imperial Chantry. And that lasts about 10 years into the Exalted Age. It was named by Divine Justine II. And now these exalted marchers were actually abruptly halted because the 4th Blight broke out. And during this time, no help from Orlais or Tevinter. They didn't want anything to do with the Blight. So the Grey Wardens had to go ahead and unite the rest of Thedas to slay the Archdemon. So, all the other places like, Navarra, Anderfels, Parvalan. Well, actually, at that time, Parvalan was still owned by the Imperium. Antiva. And then Garel, which was actually the Grey Warder commander, he ended up sacrificing himself to slay the Archdemon. And they killed so many Darkspawn, and it was a bloodbath. They killed so many that they believed that the Darkspawn were never going to return. They thought, okay, this is it. We beat them. And we know that is unfortunately not the case. So then the Griffins actually became extinct over 200 years. The next 200 years, they slowly started to die out with so many deaths caused in the Blight. And during this time, Ferelden is actually founded by Calenhad Therion. And a lot of you guys know Ferelden as the place of the first game. And gotta say, it's my favorite. Love that place. Next, we'll move on to the Steel Age. Now, I kind of like the reason that this age is called the Steel Age, because it was actually named from the murder of Queen Margarel of Antiva. And she was found impaled by 4 steel swords. They just walked into the throne room and she was dead. 4 steel swords inside of her. And they thought, okay, this is the next age name, the Age of Steel. And then the first Quinari War broke out after the Quinari conquered Parvalan, which was owned by Tevinter. Now, the Quinari pushed deeply into Tevinter, Ravane, Antiva, forcing people to convert to the Khun, which is their religion. Yeah, and that was before the humans organized and began to repel them. During this time as well, widespread hunting of dragons actually led to borderline extinction. Almost little to no dragons were around. Some people even believe they were extinct. And then this ushers in the new age of Storm Age, and the First Quinori War drew to a stalemate. Orlesian and Imperial Chantries actually joined together and called for the new Exalted Marches. So, before we remember how the two Chantries were at each other's throats because their different views on how magic was in society. But now the Quinari pose such a big threat that those chantries actually work together to get rid of them. Then the Grey Wardens are actually banished from Ferelden during this time. And the reason that is because Warden Commander Sophia Dryden attempted a coup d'etat, which fails, and in turn leads them to being banished. And over 150 years and 3 exalted marches, all during the Storm Age, the Quinari Wars finally come to an end with the peace treaty of Le Marne, signed by the Quinari and all human nations except Tevinter, who attempted to take back part of Lan. Tevinter, they're very stubborn people, and I say that as kind of like a compliment. I mean, it's not, in certain situations being stubborn isn't good, but I respect how nationalistic the Tevinters are, and they wanted all of their land back before any peace was taken. Peace started. So yeah, they wanted to continue to take back their land. Next, we have the Blessed Age. Orlesian Emperor Editine I's twin sons is declared a good omen by the Chantry, and that's how the Blessed Age began, was the birth of these twin sons. They thought that this was finally, after all these years of war against each other, against other people, that this was a good omen, that this age would be blessed. However, as history has shown us in this universe, that does not last, because soon after, Orlais launched a second invasion of the Ferelden Valley and sacked Denerim. The Therian royal bloodline enjoyed support from nobility, and the Ferelden Rebellion began. So, Orlais came in, they were able to go ahead and take over everything, and soon after that, well, not soon, years after that, they were the royal bloodline of the people who found Ferelden back when Callan had first founded him, were able to go ahead and rebel against Orlais and get their land back. And that is the premise of The Calling, or The Stolen Throne, and then the sequel of that book is The Calling. And if you guys haven't read that, I would highly suggest. Those are really good books. David Gator is an amazing author. So yeah, I can't recommend those enough. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go on to our final age, and that's Dragon Age. And we know this age because this is when most of the media that can consume about Dragon Age, this is when it takes place, is during this age. The Dragon Age actually began when they saw the first high dragon sighted in centuries. So before, when I said that, the dragons became extinct, somehow someone saw a high dragon, and they thought that was a good omen, that was going to usher in the Dragon Age, and it did. During this time as well, the Ferelden Rebellion drove out Orlesian forces, and sovereignty were established in 9-2 Dragon. So 2 years into the Dragon Age is when Ferelden was finally able to gain independence again. And I'm not going to go too much details on Dragon Age, just because, on the Dragon Age, because, like I said, most of the media that we consume comes from this time period. I really just wanted to touch on a little bit of what happens in the previous ages that we don't really see too much about. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we all learned a little something.